This is an art collage novel video. I made this series so you guys can experience the story faster. The video will focus on the character's psychology. The images are for illustration purposes only. Ning Kyue was furious and said, "You are the one who schemed against our Red Moon City." The sword chi in her hand surged with monstrous power. Her whole body rose with the shadow, and a power that could cut through everything rushed out from the sword light. Kuan Nu held the painting scroll and read it. He looked at the sword chi rushing up, but his face remained expressionless. He threw the picturesque landscape out, and a 10,000-mile landscape instantly appeared in front of him, suppressing the golden chi. The two forces clashed on the purple cloud peak, but neither of them had a clear winner. Ning Kyue's face suddenly changed. She used her sword technique and gritted her teeth to increase her power again. Her sword light was about to break through the suppression. Kuan Nu seemed to be fearless. He slowly raised his hand, and the golden light on his fingertips was dazzling. One after another, incantation seals were sent into the painting scroll, suppressing the power of the sword chi. Ning Kyue's heart suddenly sank. With just this move, she had already understood that the other party had seen her weakness, which was that she had exhausted a lot of yuan power and could not continue. As long as she was like a trapped beast, suppressing her with the power of the vast mountains and rivers, she would win without a doubt. Ning Kyue was anxious, but she had no idea what to do. Although the other party's method was despicable, it was the most effective. This battle had completely become a competition of strength. Wei Qing's strength was continuously transmitted from the Great Hall thousands of miles away to Kuan Nu through the formation, maintaining the state that just suppressed Ning Kyue. Ning Kyue had fallen into his trap out of anger. Otherwise, with her strength, she would not have been suppressed like a trapped beast no matter how much she had consumed. As time passed, her true yuan had already been depleted by less than half after receiving Ling Bai's white snow. Now, under the constant flow of energy, the true yuan in her body began to collapse. The mountains and rivers slowly descended from the sky. Am I going to die? This thought came to Ning Kyue's mind and she smiled. For so many years, she had been living like a walking corpse every day. She had only been able to raise her spirits for a few days, and now she was really about to welcome death. Wasn't this too ironic? However, it didn't matter if she died. She didn't need to think too much. Perhaps she would meet him again. Ning Kyue smiled indifferently. Thinking of the person in her heart, tears flashed in her eyes. She looked up at the sky. In the endless snow, there seemed to be a handsome figure coming down from the sky and walking toward her. "Big Brother Morong, are you?" Ning Kyue asked indifferently. Two lines of tears flowed down her cheeks. Under the blood-red moon, the figure she had missed for a long time appeared. She knew it was an illusion before she died. But she was very happy. That year, she was in alluring red, with a faint smile and lowered eyebrows. That year, his clothes were whiter than snow, and Wu Ling was young. Meeting each other on a narrow road in her lifetime, she was not spared, and entangled curves suddenly grew out of her palm. Love can't last for more than a day. You can't keep it and you can't count the fleeting years. That year changed her life. Destiny is not something I can control. I turned around, and you're already a light year away from me. Ning Kyue smiled happily. You must take me with you this time, Brother Morong. Under the blood moon, Morong Ju's sword-like eyebrows slightly furrowed, as if he couldn't feel Ning Kyue's burning expectation. He turned around coldly, stepped into the air, and walked into the distance. "Big Brother Morong." Ning Kyue cried out miserably. Her heart was trembling. The power of the picturesque landscape was getting stronger and stronger. Her body was trembling, but her heart was trembling even more. Ning Kyue's tears flowed down like crazy. Looking at Morong Ju's distant figure, Ning Kyue's heart trembled and broke. A sad song sounded in the sky, and those who heard it cried. Kowtowing on gold thread clothes, will falling into the devil. The clouds and water flow, the waves of the sky rise. Sweep away an army of thousands and guide them like a river. Empty embrace of 10,000 worlds, a song of the ages. Morongju's figure trembled slightly. His feet that were in the air suddenly stopped. Kuan-Nu's dull face also raised his head slightly. He seemed to have noticed something and sent another seal into the picturesque landscape. The golden light grew even brighter, trying to kill Ning Qiuya as soon as possible. The spiritual energy of the golden battle suit was rapidly depleting under the suppression of the vast landscape. It could no longer hold on. Morongju stood in the distant sky and turned around. The familiar face that she had been thinking about day and night appeared in front of Ning Qiuya again. Morongju furrowed his brows. After pondering for a moment, a golden light appeared in his hand. It turned into a halberd in front of him. Then, he raised it high and slashed down. Suddenly, 9 illusionary golden dragons appeared on the halberd. As they roared and circled, the dragons soared into the clouds and crossed the sky. Kuan-Nu's expression changed. He raised his sword and created a line of defense on the power that was suppressing Ning Qiuya. It spread out in the air like a mirror. The 9 dragons roared as they descended, ruthlessly pressing down on the dozens of layers of defense. They continued to charge forward, forcing Kuan-Nu to retreat. Ning Qiuya was in a daze for a while. Then, she was shocked. She pinched herself a few times and felt a sharp pain. The scene in front of her was not an illusion before she died. She was completely dumbfounded. She looked at everything in front of her in disbelief, and her tears flowed out uncontrollably, turning her into a crying person. As soon as Tianxi made his move, Ning Qiuya immediately broke free from the desperate situation. Kuan-Nu's face was filled with disbelief. His mouth was wide open, as if he had fallen into a daze. He was not only looking at Tianxi, but also at the huge moon-like eyeball behind him. He did not know what it was. Finally, his gaze turned to the sky above. The white ball of breathing air had been broken open by someone, and the entrance to the immortal land was slowly closing. In the great hall thousands of miles away, Wei Qing and the skinny old man were both shocked. The entrance to the immortal land has been opened. Who is this person? The hearts of the 2 magnates trembled at the same time, as if they had a bad premonition. On the purple cloud peak, the picturesque defense was shattered by the 9 dragons' sword. The scroll flew up and landed in Kuan-Nu's hands. The blue light on Tianxi's forehead flashed as he turned his gaze toward Hanli. Oh. It's an avatar divine ability. Are there still such experts in this era? After Tianxi muttered to himself, a cold smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Who could be his match in this sky where there were no more experts of the 10 directions divine realm? The ancient Maha characters appeared on the sharp light of the halberds. They bounced up one by one, condensed into a sharp blade, and shot out. Kuan-Nu's hands formed seals and quickly entered the painting. A landscape appeared and suppressed the Maha ancient character. Tianxi's brows furrowed and a cold glint shot out from his eyes. Lord Sinkhole. The eye of the ultimate behind him slowly opened its eyes, and a scarlet gaze stared over. Kuan-Nu was stunned by the gaze of the ultimate. His eyes revealed a look of shock, and even the vast land froze under this gaze. Golden spear flowing shadow, clear the clouds and reveal the sun. Tianxi replied indifferently. The spear in his hand glowed with a golden light, and the ancient Maha characters shone brightly. 10,000 rays of golden light descended from the sky, not only suppressing the aura of the picturesque mountains and rivers, but also piercing through it with a series of bang bang bang. Kuan-Nu's expression changed and his eyes became empty. The sharpness of his dagger axe did not decrease and directly struck his body. In the great hall thousands of miles away, Wei Qing's expression changed as a golden light directly pierced through the array in front of him and slashed at him. Humph. Wei Qing snorted coldly and grabbed the golden light with his big hand. He crushed it after a glance. The golden light spread out and raised the temperature of the entire hall. The scrawny old man was also shocked. He said, "Who is that person? He's actually so powerful. Not only did he break through your picturesque landscape, but he was also able to use your passageway to send an attack here." There are only a handful of people in the world who have such strength. Wei Qing's expression was also very unsightly, and he said coldly, "The world is vast, and there are countless experts. Even you and I don't dare to say that we'll be in control of everything. There's already been a slip-up in the matter of Red Moon City. In the future, we'll meet as little as possible, so it's better to be careful in everything." After he finished speaking, he turned around and walked out of the hall. The scrawny old man was shocked and hurriedly said, "What about my disciple?" Wei Qing's figure had already disappeared from the hall, and his cold voice came from nowhere, "Let him pray for himself." The scrawny old man's face turned extremely ugly. Under such circumstances, the possibility of his disciple's life being saved was next to nothing. On the purple cloud peak, Kuan Nu's entire body turned into light after being hit by the power of the dagger axe, and countless cracks appeared on his body. He began to collapse one by one, turning into countless specks of light and dissipating. Meanwhile, the picturesque scroll in the sky dispersed its spiritual energy and quickly closed up, turning into a golden light that broke through the sky. Tianxi stared coldly at the scroll, and the corners of his lips curled up slightly as a cold glint flashed in his eyes. After doing all this, he turned around and was about to leave without even looking at Ning Keyue. "Wait for me." Ning Keyue hurriedly called out, tears covering her face. She sobbed, "I know you're not him, but please don't leave me." "Foolish." Tianxi turned around and snorted coldly. He no longer paid attention to Ning Keyue and stepped into the sky. In an instant, he had traveled 1,000 miles. The huge blood moon of the ruins of End followed closely behind him and shuttled through the night. Ning Keyue was stunned for a moment. She wiped the tears from her face and turned into a ray of light to chase after him. After a long while, the air above the summit rippled slightly, and Yang Yuanshu's body was revealed. However, his face was abnormally pale and he vomited a mouthful of blood. During the battle between the three masters, he had been using a secret technique to hide in the void and didn't dare to move. He didn't expect that Ning Keyue would let him go in the end. Yang Yuanshu's eyes were filled with shock, as if he still couldn't believe that he had managed to keep his life. After calming himself down, he raised his head to look at the slowly closing world of eternity, his heart in turmoil. The celestial realm sealing technique was developed by his master according to an ancient recipe. It should have been foolproof, but now it was ineffective. Yang Yuanshu's expression was dark and uncertain, and he immediately transformed into a streak of light and shot off into the horizon. In a mountain range adjacent to the purple cloud peak, four maidservants were searching for spiritual herbs. They walked over in groups and searched very carefully, but at the same time, they did not dare to go too deep into the mountain range for fear of encountering demonic beasts. Faint origin energy fluctuations spread out from the four of them, and it was obvious that they were also martial artists, but they were not powerful, only martial lords. They had found a strange flower called Feng Xinzi. It was light purple and was a 5th-grade spirit herb. It was also accidentally discovered by their wives in this mountain a few days ago. After searching for half a day, he did not manage to pick many Feng Xinzi. "Sister Ziling, we've been in this area for more than half a month. I'm afraid that all the Feng Xinzi have been plucked by us," a girl in red said. The girl who was walking in front, Ziling, raised her head and said, "This mountain range is really a treasure land. Not only are there so many Feng Xinzi, but there are also many other spiritual flowers and rare herbs. Let's hurry up and pick as many as we can. These are the main ingredients for the congealing jade pill, and we don't have any in Yuanling City. We have to buy them from other chambers of commerce at a high price every time." The other girl in green laughed. "Sister Hongshan must be tired again. But it's true. I'm tired every day. I have to be careful in case I encounter any demon beasts. But no matter what, today is the last day, and most of the people in the Red Moon City have left. It's our turn to use the teleportation array." Ziling looked around and said, "The danger zone is up ahead. Let's go back. There are still many things to pack up in the inn, so we might be able to get a queue number today."
Yay!
Long live Sister Ziling. When they heard that, the other three girls all cheered and laughed. Ziling was the oldest. She smiled and shook her head. Suddenly, she seemed to catch something from the corner of her eye and was shocked. She hurried forward and cried out, "Hong Shan, Qing Chui, Bai Yun, come and take a look. There's someone here." The other three little girls were startled for a moment. They ran over while chattering, each of them extremely vigilant. Under a bush, a man was lying on the ground. It was unknown whether he was dead or alive. His body was dirty and covered in mud.
Ah.
Hong Shan covered her mouth and exclaimed. "So he's a dead man." The four women's faces darkened. Although they were also martial lords and had killed some bad guys, none of them felt comfortable when they saw a dirty body lying in front of them. This man must have entered the immortal realm and was killed by the demonic beasts there. He must have been teleported out on the day of the closing, Qing Chui said with a pale face. "Don't talk nonsense," Ziling said. "I've heard Madam say that only living beings who enter the end of time will be teleported out. If they die inside, they won't come out. It's very likely that this person was teleported out when he was on the verge of death, and then fell here to his death. Even if we were transported to the sky, would a warrior who can enter the world without dying fall to his death?" Qing Chui said with a strange expression. The other three women were also stunned. It did not make sense. Bai Yun suddenly said, "Could it be that this person isn't dead? It's been 3 days since planet Tianhuang was closed, and the humidity here is extremely high. If I fell to my death, I would have been bitten by insects. He didn't die. It can't be, right?" Hong Shan covered her mouth and hid behind Ziling in fear. Ziling was a 9-stars martial lord and the eldest sister of the crowd. She grabbed in the air, and suddenly a sword appeared in her hand. She used the scabbard to fiddle with the man's body and directly turned him over in the mud. Arg! It's so ugly. The four girls immediately sucked in a breath of cold air. The upper half of that person's face was densely covered with blood vessels, and his 2 eyes were swollen like buns, making him look terrifying. Ziling took a step back nervously and said, "This person really isn't dead. He seems to have fainted from severe injuries." "This person is too ugly," Hong Shan said with a squeak. "Is he a human or a demonic beast?" Bai Yun mustered up her courage and stepped forward to take a look. She said, "This person is actually quite good-looking. It seems that he has some kind of chronic illness, which is why his eyes have become so terrifying. Should we save him?" "Save him. Don't joke around." Hong Shan was shocked and urged, "Let's hurry up. I don't know if this person is good or bad. If he wakes up, he might attack us." Qing Chui nodded and agreed with Hong Shan. "I don't think he's a bad person," Bai Yun said softly. "But what if he's a bad guy?" Hong Shan asked. Bai Yun did not say anything else. After all, the 4 of them were too weak. If they really met a bad person, they would basically have no power to protect themselves. Ziling hesitated for a moment and said, "This person's injuries are too severe. Even if he's a bad person, he won't be able to attack. Let's bring them back. Perhaps Madam can cure his injuries. Even if he's a bad person, we have no need to be afraid with everyone around. Bring him back?" The 3 girls revealed looks of disbelief. Only Bai Yun nodded slightly. Ziling didn't know why, but she just felt that saving this person in front of her, maybe it was just an instinctive kindness? She couldn't explain it herself. The man in front of them was too dirty, and no one was willing to touch him. The 4 women quickly made a stretcher and lifted the man up, heading towards Red Moon City. It had been 3 days since the end of the world closed, and most of the bustling people in the entire Red Moon City had left. Due to the large number of people, the Red Moon City adopted the method of queuing to open the teleportation array. Of course, those with great origins did not need to queue. These days, the entire Red Moon City was in an extremely strange atmosphere. Except for some small-ranked leaders who were still maintaining order, no high-level officials of the Red Moon City could be seen. Of course, that night when the 2 9th-grade battleships flew across the sky and Tang Qing led the 4 extreme sect to force them to abdicate, most people still remembered it clearly and would not forget it. In the past 3 days, there had been many rumors that Jiang Churen, the city lord of the Red Moon City, had fallen in the end of the world, and that Tang Qing was very likely to take over the position of the city lord of the Red Moon City, which made people even more anxious. If the Red Moon City really changed hands, it would definitely be a major event that would shock the world. The impact would probably be so great that it would directly surpass the death of Gu Feiyang back then. Many people from the 7 superpowers had stayed in the city to inquire about the situation. They had sent people to the city lord's mansion many times, but they were all ordinary small leaders who came out to receive them. They could not see any higher-ups. However, on the 3rd day, the Red Moon City finally issued an announcement to accept the 4 extreme sect. The entire city was shocked and the news spread like wildfire. Red Moon City was an existence formed by many forces, so it was normal for new forces to join. However, this time, they were accepting the 4 extreme sect, which had caused an uproar in Songyuyang City. Whether it was the 4 extreme sect's strength or what they had done in the past few days, this would be something that would attract the attention of the entire continent. The direction of Red Moon City, as well as the power structure of the eastern region, might have a tremendous change from this. Everyone seemed to be foretelling the arrival of an even bigger storm. The 7 superpowers seemed to be more concerned about another matter, and that was the life and death of City Lord Jiang Churen. It seemed to have become a mystery. At the ancestral spirit ruins, the people of the 7 great sects all saw that Jiang Churen seemed to have met an extremely powerful opponent. Combined with all kinds of rumors, they all seemed to point to the same ending, and that was Jiang Churen had already fallen. If that was the case, then as the 4 extreme sect joined the Red Moon City, the first thing that would break out would definitely be a bloody power struggle. The situation of the 3 strongest powers in the Red Moon City would soon change. In the past few days, many merchants and small vassal forces of the Red Moon City had also begun to take numbers and line up, waiting to be teleported out of this troublesome place. In an inn, Yong Tianyun and his disciple had already packed up and were planning to return to the Sea of Soul formation. They had also gained a lot from this trip to the end of Earth and the end of Heaven, and they were about to return to cultivate. There were also a few people from the MU family. They were supposed to leave a long time ago, but they had been delayed here for 3 days because of something. Fu Yu's figure appeared on the street and instantly appeared in front of them. He shook his head with a gloomy expression. The light in Yong Tianyun's eyes finally dimmed down. He looked up and sighed. The sky should be clear after the heavy snow, but this Red Moon City has been gloomy for 3 days. It's not a good sign. A cold smile appeared on Mu Hong's face as he said that Li Yunxiao is just one of the countless meteors in the sky, and he's only going to disappear in a flash. His fate is to shine for a moment. I just realized that he's not dead, Mu Fenghua suddenly said. Mu Hong was taken aback, but then he smiled and said, Fenghua, I understand what you're thinking. You want to find a strong opponent to fight, but unfortunately, Yun Xiao can't. He's just a shooting star, and you're going to be a star. Mu Fenghua remained silent, but his eyes flickered as Yun Xiao's figure appeared in his mind, and his blood immediately boiled. This was a warrior's instinct, the respect for the opponent. His blood was still burning, which meant that the person was definitely not dead. Master, he has been in seclusion for 3 days, Fu Yu said. All the people who have been teleported out are within 100 miles of the Purple Cloud Peak, and they have basically all returned to Red Moon City. That Li Yunxiao is probably dead. Yong Tianyun sighed and said, I don't think that Li Yunxiao is a short-lived man. Perhaps God has other arrangements. Let's go back to the city. This incident in Red Moon City is truly frightening. I'm afraid that this is only the beginning of the chaos. Mu Hong laughed, Elder Tianyun, you're worrying too much. It's just the death of a city lord. Moreover, I see that with the addition of the 4 extreme sect, the strength of the Red Moon City will only increase. The existence of such a superforce is very beneficial to the peace and stability of the continent. I hope so. Yong Tianyun's face seemed to be covered with a layer of frost that couldn't be removed. Let's go, he said. The group immediately left the inn and headed towards the teleportation zone. Not long after they left, Ziling and the other three carried the seriously injured ugly man into the inn and went straight to the few rooms in the backyard.